In the quiet countryside of Oregon, away from the city lights and urban hustle, resided Jake Stanton, a respected physicist by profession and an avid stargazer by passion. His rural residence was a sanctuary of solace, where the expanse of the sky offered an uninterrupted canvas to stargaze and explore the mysteries of the cosmos. Jake was a loner. His company were his pet dog, Max, and his ever-faithful telescope. His modest house was filled with shelves of books and research papers on astrophysics, celestial maps, and complex equations scribbled on chalkboards. His life was a melody of routine, work during the day and the sky's companionship during the starlit nights. One such clear night, while the symphony of crickets echoed in the background, Jake was tracking the path of a newly discovered comet. As he was about to call it a night, his eyes caught sight of a bizarre anomaly, a rapidly flickering light near the Orion constellation. He quickly adjusted his telescope, but the object defied any logic or pattern he knew. It darted across the sky, leaving a neon blue trail, changing directions at impossible speeds. His heart pounded in his chest. This was beyond any terrestrial technology or known celestial objects. Jake quickly documented his observations, capturing photos and jotting down notes. Excited and overwhelmed, Jake shared his findings with his colleagues in the scientific community. He was met with skepticism, even laughter. His evidence was dismissed as tricks of light, lens errors, or even a joke. Jake felt frustrated but undeterred. He knew what he had seen wasn't a hoax or hallucination. Days turned into weeks, and Jake continued his observations. He would spend countless hours under the night sky, hoping for another sighting. His obsession began to overtake his life. His day job took a backseat, and sleep became a distant memory. Little did he know that his life was on the brink of an irreversible change. What started as a pursuit of curiosity was about to turn into a chilling, otherworldly encounter that would challenge his beliefs, his sanity, and his will to survive. In the weeks that followed, oddities began to ripple through Jake's quiet existence. At first, they were subtle. His state-of-the-art equipment would malfunction inexplicably. His usually calm dog, Max, began to show signs of unrest, especially at night. He initially chalked it up to the stress of his new nocturnal routine, but soon, the anomalies grew more pronounced and increasingly unsettling. On multiple occasions, he found his livestock, a small flock of sheep he kept, huddled together in a corner of the pasture in the early mornings, their eyes wide with fear. Upon inspecting them, he found no physical injuries, yet their terror was palpable. It seemed as if they were running from something. As a man of science, Jake was determined to find logical explanations. However, his attempts at establishing rational connections fell short. In addition to the unexplainable behavior of his animals, there were the sounds. They usually started just after midnight, faint at first, but growing louder as the nights wore on. They were unlike anything he'd ever heard, a low, resonating hum, punctuated by what sounded like whispers in a language he couldn't decipher. He tried to record these sounds, but each time, his devices would fail or only record static. Jake's curiosity gradually morphed into anxiety. The isolated setting of his house, once a peaceful sanctuary, now took on a more ominous air. The endless expanses that he had so cherished now felt threatening, offering endless hiding spots for the unknown. The silence of the countryside was no longer comforting, it was isolating. Despite the fear creeping into his heart, he remained resolute, choosing to face whatever was happening head-on. The anticipation was draining. The initial excitement of spotting the unidentified object had given way to a lingering dread. But it was the incident at the end of the month that chilled him to his core. One morning, he woke up to find his entire house subtly altered. Objects were not where he had left them, and some even appeared slightly distorted, as if seen through a warped lens. It was barely noticeable but enough to make him question his sanity. Jake began to feel he was on the edge of something colossal and terrifying, something that was way beyond his comprehension. He was now living in a constant state of unease, the boundary between his scientific understanding and the inexplicable phenomena blurring each day. He was playing a nerve-wracking game with an unseen opponent, the stakes of which were unbeknownst to him. Despite everything, A part of him hoped that this was all just a mind playing tricks due to sleep deprivation and stress. But that hope would soon be shattered. He was about to come face to face with an entity from a realm beyond our understanding. It was just a matter of time before the suspense gave way to an encounter that would defy his very understanding of reality. One particularly stormy night, the strange phenomena escalated to a terrifying climax. Jake was in his home office, hunched over a pile of notes, when a bright flash outside caught his attention. Leaving his work, he cautiously peered out the window. What he saw left him rooted to the spot, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. In the pasture, a few hundred yards from his house, stood an otherworldly craft, bathed in an eerie blue light. It was neither an airplane nor a helicopter. Its design was sleek and strange, humming with a pulsating rhythm that matched the whispers he'd been hearing for weeks. But what truly shook him to his core was the creature that emerged from the craft. It was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered under the strange light. Its face was featureless save for two gleaming, pitch-black eyes that seemed to absorb all light around them. It moved with an unnatural fluidity, crossing the distance towards Jake's house in a blink. As it approached, Jake felt his world distort. His vision blurred, and he was subjected to a barrage of horrifying images, of planets devastated, of alien creatures writhing in agony, of his own body disintegrating atom by atom. He could feel the fear these visions were meant to induce, a fear like he had never known. His scientific mind wrestled with the reality of the creature before him. This was a being capable of invading his mind, bending and warping his perceptions to its will. The hallucinations were not just terrifying but were also physically exhausting. His strength waned, and his resolve threatened to crumble under the relentless onslaught. With tremendous effort, he broke away from the window, tearing his gaze away from the entity. His body felt heavy, and his mind clouded, but fear drove him to move. The serene sanctuary he once called home now felt like a trap, his isolation, a grave disadvantage. He ran to his basement, the only place with reinforced walls meant to serve as his observatory and lab. As he descended into the dimly lit basement, he could hear the subtle alterations in the ambience of his house, the whispers growing louder and the hum growing stronger. It was as if the creature was tracing his steps, drawing closer with each passing second. As the reality of his situation crashed over him, Jake realized he was dealing with an entity far beyond human comprehension. His fear was overshadowed by the chilling realization that he was part of an encounter that might very well be his end. It wasn't just the physical appearance of the creature that frightened him, but its ability to manipulate his mind and his perception of reality. He knew he needed a plan, and fast, before the entity reached him. His survival depended on it. In the safety of his basement, Jake's racing mind frantically sought a solution. The alien creature's power over perception was incredible, but it also hinted at a possible weakness. If its abilities were akin to a signal being transmitted, then maybe it could be disrupted or at least distorted temporarily. With this thought in mind, Jake hastily began assembling a makeshift device from his array of equipment. His hands trembled as he worked, the strange, resonating hum growing louder, reaching a fever pitch as the creature descended closer towards his sanctuary. Each minute was precious, the margin for error negligible. Jake focused on piecing together a frequency disruptor. He had read theories about using similar technology to scramble signals and cause sensory overload, but they were purely theoretical and never been tried. But in the face of certain death, he was ready to gamble. The strange whispers seemed to grow more intense as he neared the completion of his device. As he connected the last wires, a chilling silence fell. Then, he felt it, a presence. It was there, just on the other side of the door. He could feel its gaze on him, its dark eyes boring into his very soul. The door creaked open slowly, the figure of the alien standing stark against the brightness behind it. Jake felt his breath hitch. As his eyes met the creature's, a wave of terror-infused images flooded his senses, every scene more horrifying than the last. His hand shook, but he managed to hold onto the disruptor, pointing it towards the alien. With the last of his strength, Jake activated the device. A pulse of energy, invisible but powerful, radiated from the disruptor. The effect was instantaneous. The alien creature reeled back, its form flickering, like a television struggling to hold a signal. Its grip on Jake's mind weakened. The horrific images lessened, and he could finally draw a clear breath. He watched, heart pounding in his chest, as the creature seemed to struggle, its pitch-black eyes fixed on him. But it wasn't defeated. It was only a matter of time before it regained control. Using the precious moments his device had bought him, Jake scrambled up the stairs and out of his house. Behind him, the disruptor whirred and buzzed, its power waning. As he ran, he looked over his shoulder just in time to see the alien returning to its craft, which lit up and then shot into the sky, disappearing into the stormy night. Despite his relief, Jake didn't stop running until he reached the nearest town. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath came in ragged gasps, but he was alive. He had survived an encounter that had challenged his understanding of reality, his sanity, and his very existence. The days following his encounter were a blur. The local authorities found Jake wandering on the outskirts of town, disheveled and in shock. He was taken to a hospital where he was treated for exhaustion and shock. When asked about what happened, he couldn't bring himself to articulate the otherworldly horror he had experienced. Jake returned to his home a few days later. The sight of the quiet house, standing just as he had left it, was eerie. His instruments were undisturbed, his livestock unharmed. The only sign of the encounter was the scorched patch of earth in his pasture where the alien craft had landed, and the broken frequency disruptor in his basement. There was no physical proof of the terrifying alien or its manipulation of his mind. Shaken by his encounter, Jake made the decision to leave his rural home. He put up the property for sale and moved to a bustling city, far away from the solitude he once cherished. He swapped the open skies for towering buildings and his telescope for textbooks. The incident had left him with a deep sense of paranoia and fear, forever altering his perception of the universe. Yet, even amidst the crowd and city lights, he often found himself glancing at the stars, a chill running down his spine as he remembered the horror that had descended from those very skies. The memory of the alien's gleaming black eyes and the terrifying images it had forced into his mind haunted him. Every shadow seemed ominous, every silence held the echo of the alien hum, every solitude a reminder of his terrifying isolation that night. The once respected physicist and passionate stargazer was now a changed man. He kept his experience to himself, knowing well the skepticism and ridicule that would follow. His obsession with the cosmos had brought him face to face with a terror beyond human comprehension, an encounter that had cost him his peace of mind and his way of life. The universe, once a source of wonder and fascination, was now a chilling enigma. He realized how small and insignificant humans were in the grand scheme of the cosmos, and the possibilities it held were both wondrous and terrifying. His encounter served as a reminder that among the billions of stars and the infinite space, humans might not be alone, and not all that lurks in the cosmos is benign. He carried this chilling knowledge with him, a survivor of an extraterrestrial enigma that he hoped no other person would ever have to experience. The once quiet countryside of Oregon and the starlit nights were now just chilling memories of a past life, a life before the encounter. For Jake Stanton, the stars never shone the same way again. And there you have it, dear viewers, the chilling tale of an encounter from beyond our world. A simple stargazer's pursuit of knowledge turned into a haunting brush with the unknown. What was once a source of fascination turned into an unending nightmare. It's a reminder that among the infinite expanse of the universe, we may not be alone, and that thought alone is enough to send shivers down the spine. Thank you for joining us tonight on HorrorHues, where we delve into the darkest corners of the unknown and bring you tales that make your skin crawl. Jake Stanton's terrifying encounter is a testimony that reality can sometimes be scarier than our worst nightmares. Remember, the next time you look up at the starlit night sky, you never know who or what might be looking back. It's a vast universe out there, filled with wonders and horrors beyond human comprehension. If you enjoyed tonight's spine-chilling story, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your fellow horror enthusiasts, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our channel, HorrorHues, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss our next journey into the eerie unknown. We have many more stories lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, keep the lights on, you never know what's lurking in the dark.